Hello, everyone. I'm Yana Smakula. Welcome back to my channel. This is episode 2 of Mythbusters with Yana and Denzil. I'm joined by my friend Denzil. Denzil, please say hello.
Hello, everybody. Good to see you virtually.
Yes, good to see you virtually. Today, we are going to talk about die cutting machines. So we're busting a die cutting machine myth.
Cool. That sounds like a lot of fun. I love die cutting machines. I've been a part of design, development, bringing a lot of machines to market on the marketing side, on the product development side, on the manufacturing side. I love machines. There's a lot of great ones out there. And we're going to talk a little bit about the machines and the compatibility, the things that go in the machines.
Yes, lots of good stuff coming. So stay tuned. Also, guys, did you notice we're wearing the same Spellbinder shirt? I finally found my Spellbinder shirt, and I could not be more excited to wear it today. And we're matching with Denzil today. Isn't that fun?
Looks great.
Yeah.
You wear it better than I do. I know that.
Okay, thank you.
And I want to give a shout out to you. Everything that you've done for the industry and everything that you do for Spellbinders, and just you love what you do.
I do love.
And I know we don't mention it in videos, and I want to start doing it. I want to try and make it a habit. Is watching this video, give her a thumbs up down in the bottom. Give her a thumbs up. Leave a comment. The thumbs up really helps the algorithms of YouTube or wherever you're watching this, and helps other people find it and become a bigger community. So give Yana a shout out.
Thank you, Denzil. I appreciate it. Yep. Please drop us a comment. Let us know if you've seen episode number 1. And if you haven't, there's a link in the video description.
Yeah.
Be sure to check it out. We talk about all things paper in our episode 1.
Paper.
Yes.
Paper. So there's no better lead in from paper to die cutting machines, right? So let's talk about a little bit of each one of these that I have in front of me. First, I want to give a shout out to, this is where Spellbinders started, was the Wizard machine I have back here. So that's been long retired, but it was a great machine in its day. And we're going to talk about all the other machines as die cutting and creativity has evolved to do more things. The machines have also had to evolve through time. And we're going to talk a little bit about our machines, the past and present, and then talk about some of the just a little bit about competitor machines too, and we'll take it from there. What do you say?
I say let's roll, but I have a question. How many of you still have a Wizard die cutting machine? Let us know in the comments. I wonder how many people still have a Wizard, and how many of you still use your Wizard? Yeah,
That's a great question. Die cutters are not only artists, but they're also collectors.
I know.
So I know a lot of people have 2, 3, 5, 10 machines. I know people have. I get emails from people that have lots of machines. So
yeah.
So we talked about the Wizard. We gave a nod to that, and then I'm going to talk about a couple of the other machines that we have here. I'm going to talk about. You have the overhead camera here. We got the Grand Caliber. I don't have the handle on it because I'm going to take it apart and show you a few things here in a few minutes. So I've got the Grand Caliber, which is here. Then they have the Artisan Explorer. And you'll notice something about these two machines in particular is the gap, the opening is a little more narrow. So it's not as wide as our Platinum Series machines. So we've got a narrow opening on the Grand Caliber and also on the Artisan Explorer. This was a really tough, really rugged machine. So really nice little machine. Then we had a Prism that came along 9 years ago or something like that. And that was like a very entry-level machine. And then today, our first machine we had the Platinum machine, which is this big right here. Everybody sees the familiar with Platinum. You got yours. The workhorse.
Yes. I still have mine, by the way. I still have my original Platinum machine. Love it.
Yes. So that is the workhorse of the industry, really. So it can do it all. And then we've got the P6, Platinum 6-inch, basically. We call it the P6. So it has a 6-inch opening, still very rugged, and that's probably the most popular machine. So really, really good machine. Then our newest little baby is the Scout. So the Platinum Scout right here, you can see that lighting here. So the Platinum Scout is our smaller on-the-go version. Weighs a little less than 2 pounds, and it's super light, super portable. Love that little guy. So, and then also want to give a shout out to Sizzix and the Big Shot here. I've got that on it. So we have this, and we test our products in there. Also, we try to make. We recognize that some of you, different people, get into the industry like you did, Yana, with like from different ways, right? So we've got the Stampin' Up machine here too. That's how you actually got into the paper card making industry, right?
No.
So you were inspired.
I was, yes, I was inspired by Stampin' Up.
Get it in Europe.
Yes, I could, like, I started Googling, I found Stampin' Up demonstrator blogs. I was thrilled, and I really wanted to become a Stampin' Up demonstrator, but that was not possible in Ukraine at the time. So yeah, in that sense, yes, you are correct, Denzil.
But they have a great machine, and Sizzix has great machines, and they have more than one machine. I brought these two out because they're the 6-inch versions, which is the most popular version of our machine as well. We'll just talk about some compatibility things too. And just to give a quick nod, there are a lot of other machines out there. I think these are the most popular ones. A lot of people do Stampin' Up. A lot of people get into card making with Stampin' Up because they're at a friend's and they do a fun party thing or whatever. And it's a really great entry level program to get people interested in card making and stuff. And Sizzix, obviously, the kind of the starter of die cutting in the craft industry. Nod to them. Big Shot, great machine. I helped work on this machine when I was at Sizzix many years ago. But so that's kind of the machine ecosystem. That's kind of what. So what's available right now are kind of the machines from here over. So you've got our 3 Platinum machines. Civic still has a Big Shot. Stampin' Up has their stamp cut and emboss machine. And so let's talk about those machines. How about that?
Yeah. Well, I do have a question before we proceed. So which die cutting machine is the best?
Ooh, great question. Is that a Mythbuster question?
Well, I don't know. You tell me.
So it depends on what you're looking for. If you want, it's like anything in life. It's like, like no matter what you're doing, there's multiple choices, right? So
yes.
Like if you're making dinner tonight, is the oven the best? Is the grill the best? Is the microwave the best? Depends on what I'm making, right?
True.
So die cutting is kind of the same way. If you want one machine, if you only want one machine that's foolproof, that's going to do everything, going to cut every die, going to do all embossing, going to, hot foil, going to BetterPress, I think that the original Platinum is the best machine. If you're on the go, if you, are on the go and you're traveling to a friend's house or whatever, the Scout is a wonderful machine. It's going to be limited in its size, but it's a wonderful machine. With that said, our most popular machine is actually the one in the middle. So it really kind of depends on what you're doing and how you're crafting. If you're just making A2 cards and you don't have any super tricked out dies, or you're not working on large pieces of paper or whatever, 6-inch. This does 99% of everything they're going to. So.
Yeah, sounds good. There's no one size fits all. It depends on what.
No one size fits all.
Yeah, it depends on your needs. I would say it also depends on the amount of space that you have. Some of us have very small tabletop space, so a Platinum 6 or a Scout is probably the best machine. But if you have a huge craft room, a lot of desktop area, you can definitely fit the original Platinum in there.
That's right.
Okay.
And budget also.
True.
We can't forget budget.
Yes. The
Platinum is a more expensive machine, and I'll show you why. Here in a second, I'll show you the guts of all of these to kind of give you an idea of what's going on and why they are a little bit more expensive. So.
Okay. Well, I do have my Mythbuster question for you, Denzil. So,
That's a tricky one.
yeah.
That's tricky.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Okay. Every die that fits into my machine should cut. If not, if that die does not cut in my machine, that means that my machine is defective. Is that true?
That's false.
I know it.
So we get a lot of questions. There's a lot of companies out there making dies, and I'm going to clear this table off, okay?
Mhm.
So I'm going to give myself a little bit more room. My office is a little bit messy right now, so it is what it is. So I also brought my fun little toy out here, my micrometer. I don't know, can you see that from the camera?
That's a fancy toy.
Things in really, really accurate details, like one 1/1000th of a millimeter. So a millimeter is small anyway, right? So so a human hair is about 0.05 millimeters. Okay, so so our products are accurate in points within the thickness of human hair. That's
wow.
That's the tolerance that we have with our products, from the gaps in the machines, the thicknesses of dies, to all this. So Spellbinders dies, and I picked Sizzix, Stampin' Up, and Spellbinders for a reason. Okay, because they've been in the die cutting business for a long time, and we all kind of have about the same specs on our products, the specifications. So our products are very, from the machines to the cutting place, we'll talk about here in a few minutes, to the dies, it's all very compatible and interchangeable for a reason. We recognize that crafters do have limited budgets. We all do. And we want to make things as cross-compatible as possible. So like with the dies, you'll see this is one of our dies. So the thickness of the die is 0.816. So we round it up, it's 0.82. Okay. So if you go to, this is a Sizzix die here. The Sizzix die is 0.82. So that's the thickness of the die. Okay. We have a Stampin' Up die here, which is 0.83. So they're really, really, really close. So all of our dies, the tolerances that we have, the factories that we work with are good quality factories. The tolerances are very, very tight, very, very close. Some other dies out there, not so much. So you don't have to, there's several different factories around the world that make dies. Most of them are in China, one or two here in the US. The factory, so this is I'll call them out, this is a recollection die. So you can see, if you feel it, you can tell that it's just not the same quality. You measure the blade, and the blade height is 0.66. So it's significantly thinner. So the blade height is 0.66, and the base height is 0.35. So that means from this base, I don't know if you can see right there, from this base to the top of the blade is 0.3 millimeters. Okay. So let's measure a piece of paper. So this is our 100-pound cardstock, is about 0.38. So the paper is actually thicker than, and the cardstock generally, cardstock is going to range from, 0.3, 100-pound cardstock is going to range from 0.32 to 0.38, and kind of in that range. And the 80-pound cardstock will be like 0.26 to 0.32-ish, kind of in that range. So the paper is actually thicker than the die.
Oh,
as far as the
wow.
as far as the thickness. So you're going to have a hard time cutting this out and not getting some, we call them chads. There's in the U.S. there was an election back in 2000 that there was hanging chads on the ballots and stuff. So that's a term. So you'll get chads, you'll get things hanging, you won't get clean cuts when you use some of the other brand dyes. So this is an example of a dye that's super thin. They do that so it's basically 20% thinner, right? So it's going to cost less money, right?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So, but it's not going to cut as well. So you also have to be aware of that. Also, so like when you get, there's some, we get companies who knock off our dyes, take our designs, steal our designs. All the legitimate craft companies in the U.S., from Sizzix and from Holtz to Stampin' Up to, all the good people who are out there doing quality products and stuff. Our products do get ripped off, and we'll find them on Temu or Etsy or different places where people are selling knockoff products.
Yes.
They're usually thin products that are inferior. So and then we've also got the other extreme. So this is a anaglyphic dye, which is great dye. She does wonderful designs. Her dyes are a little bit thicker. So her dyes are 1 millimeter thick. So
Oh, wow.
so that just means like when you, so her dyes, she does a lot of fabric and other things. So I believe that's the reason why she made them a little bit thicker. So she can cut some different materials, but you need to know that because when you cut a thicker dye, it's going to leave a deeper impression in your plates. So if you're only cutting thick dyes, your plates are probably going to wear out a little faster, right? That makes sense.
Yeah, I never thought about it, but it makes total sense. This is something definitely to consider when you're looking at different dyes and maybe perhaps wondering why your plates are not lasting you as long as they lasted before, or as long as they should.
Yeah. If you rotate your plates and stuff, flip them, you should get at least 1,000 cuts out of them. If you're only cutting in the same spot, it's going to wear down quicker. But if you're flipping back and forth, you should get, and if you're doing the same design over and over, sometimes that also wears the place down. So if you rotate, if you're a normal crafter if you're not replicating something,
Hmm.
but if you're a normal crafter who's doing all different kinds of designs all the time, your plates will look something like this, where the cuts are, random, but they will last, 1,000 plus.
I feel like we can even do a whole separate episodes on cutting plates.
Absolutely. Actually, that's on one of the upcoming episodes. So we have that covered.
That'd be very helpful. Give us a thumbs up if you'd like an episode on cutting plates, because I'm actually dying to film one.
So I'm going to get back under here because everybody always likes it when I break out the guts.
Yes, I like that. I like to see the inside of a die cutting machine.
All right, so this is the grand caliper, and you can see that the rollers are really nice in here, and the side posts are nice, but some of the frame and housing that holds it together is a very thick, really strong ABS plastic. And then some of the materials in here, metal gears here, metal gears here. There was a plastic gear on the side here, so we did have some issues with that back in the day. So so you can see the construction of the machines is not all the same, right? So when the dies were maybe a little simpler designs, was kind of the era that this machine came out in. This is perfectly fine for cutting out dies that were, um, you know, just like this.
Hmm.
If the die was, a aperture die, this is perfectly fine. But as things started to evolve and get more complicated and dies became really super tricked out, super intricate, we needed something that was a little more robust. So this is the plat. This thing's super heavy. So you could see all steel um, guts here, and the bearings in these are just fantastic. The gears are wonderful, all metal. Everything in here is all metal, right? And so then we've got the Platinum 6, which is the same thing. It's just downsized a little bit.
Hmm.
So everything in here is metal. the opening from the grand caliber to the platinum, we enlarged the opening to be wider so that we could do new things in the future, because back then we were thinking about glimmer, we were thinking about BetterPress, we were thinking about doing other things. So that's why we do larger openings here. And then also, so our newest baby here with the this, so this is the Platinum Scout. So you can see the Platinum Scout also has a full metal cast housing, smaller than these two. And it works on almost all the dies. It works on a lot of dies. There are some dies that are super, super tricked out that it's probably not going to cut. But as far as the small machines go, it's the best of the best. So the small machines are going to have a little less oomph in them. They're going to have a little less power because they're just smaller. They have smaller parts and pieces and smaller gears and smaller rollers and smaller housing and stuff. So they're not going to get quite as much of the detail cutting out on certain dies. So
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Thank you, Denzil.
Yeah, I think when you see it, you'll understand a little bit better about when you know what's inside inside the machines that really makes a difference. And all the machines too, doesn't matter the color or the style. Like we've got these two are exactly the same machine on the inside.
Yeah.
And no matter what version of the P6, the Platinum 6, no matter what color it is on the outside, the guts are the same on the inside. There's no difference.
Okay, so usually, if you have different color machines, they're all the same. It's just the outer color, the outer aesthetic that's different. That's good to know.
When we talk about the different dyes here too, the different thicknesses of paper, what most people use is a 100-pound cardstock, 80 or 100-pound cardstock. You can see that this is 0.35, this color. Different colors are different thicknesses, so you can have a 100-pound cardstock. The mills are really, really good about maintaining the quality, depending on how this paper has been kept, the amount of moisture in the air, the humidity. It can vary a little bit, but most of and it does change by color a little bit. Just like our hot foils change, they have nuances by color,
They do.
So,
yeah.
You see all those kind of things. So that's about 0.35. I brought in just a piece of copy paper to get on your copy machine just to show you the difference. So this is 0.09. So this is about one. So it takes about 3 pieces of copy paper to equal 1 sheet of cardstock. That's why cardstock's more expensive too.
Sure.
So again, the dies are not all equal. Back to your original question, dies are not all equal. So you stick with, some of, there's a lot of great companies out there. I picked Spellbinders S, Sizzix, one of our competitors, and Stampin' Up, competitor in a sense. They're really, in a different market, although they're doing the same thing. But all make great quality dies. And then there, Altenew and some of our other friends, Hero Arts, they all do great quality dies too.
Yes. Yes. It's good to know. Thank you for explaining that in detail. I mean, I never knew that the different dyes, different brand dyes could differ in thickness. It's good to see the visual comparison.
It is, yeah. And if you own those dies, you can pick them up and feel. I mean, you can hold this and you can hold this. This die is almost half as thick as this one.
Wow.
So I mean, that's a big difference. So the standard is the 0.82 dies, 0.82 millimeter dies.
Okay, so 0.2 millimeter is the standard size.
0.82.
0.8. Okay, cool. Well, good to know.
0.82 is the standard design dies, and that's designed to go with.
Okay, so I have a next question, the next myth buster question. Are all brand cutting plates interchangeable within the different machines?
Good question. So, no is the short answer,
Mm-hmm.
but yes, in some.
Okay.
So
Tell
it's
us
a yes and
more.
no. It's a yes and no. So, the like I showed you before, the spellbinders, all three of our machines, current machines, the Platinum 6, and the Platinum Scout, all three of those have the same opening. So the distance of the rollers is the same.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And then depending on what you're running through it, determines what level, what platforms, what cutting plates, what accessories you're going to use with it, right?
Yes.
And so the opening on the Sizzix machine and the Stampin' Up machine are also the same. So that the gap between the rollers is the same. And they also have the same thickness of cutting plates as we do.
So that means,
Cutting plates, I'm strictly talking about the plastic plates. And so these are really high quality plastic.
Mhm.
They're 3 millimeter plastics. So we won't get into like the technical side of it, but these are molded, and so the tolerance is very, very thin on these. So uh, we all these companies have a really good tolerance on the cutting plates. So the Spellbinders, the Sizzix, and the Stampin' Up plates are kind of interchangeable.
Hmm.
But the other brands are not. So I don't know what QC they all do, and many are different thicknesses. Some are super thick, some are thinner. So it just depends. So all of these plates are 3 millimeters thick, and they have really high standards for tolerance. So you should be in good shape for many of these. You just need to make sure that they can fit through the machine.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
So it's a yes and no.
Okay. A yes and no. I like that answer. Okay, so this brings me to my next question. You said that the cutting plates are interchangeable between some companies, but how about other accessories? Are they interchangeable as well?
That's another great question. Boy, you're loaded today.
Thank you, Denzil.
You've been talking to customer service. These are the questions we get all the time.
Well, no, I actually just have your cheat sheet here, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So the rollers on, and again, I'm talking about our machines and a couple of the others that are out there too. The rollers are in a fixed position, right? They're not moving.
Mhm.
This is steel. I could do some damage with this thing. So these rollers aren't moving. They're not going anyplace. And we know that the cutting plates are 3 millimeters for ours and some of the other guys too. Um, so then what you have to think about next is, what am I putting through it? And dies, we just kind of we tell you the sandwich to make, right?
Mhm.
So tolerances are really important to understand too. So like when we're making these machines, it's you know pretty demanding process, because this is forged and this is rolled steel, so everything, distance between these two is less, it's plus or minus 0.05. Okay. So the distance is the thickness of a human hair. Okay. So let's go back to, we know how thick a piece of paper is, right?
Yes.
3 millimeters.
Yep.
And if the tolerance is plus or minus 0.05, I'm sorry, plus or minus 0.05, that's a really tight tolerance. We won't have any problems cutting paper, except when, on the occasion when you have cutting plates, the tolerance on cutting plates is also plus or minus 0.05, because you can't, if you want it exact, we could make them exact, except instead of costing $10 for a pair of cutting plates, it would cost $300 for a pair of plates. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So like, that's like NASA exact, like tolerances. So it's just the cost goes up so much when you have to have it exact. But 0.05 is really, really close. But the challenge can be if this one is off, if the machine is wider 0.05 and this plate is thinner by 0.05 and this plate is thinner by 0.05, just statistics, 1 in 10,000 people, they're going to get a machine that's a little open, a plate that's a little thinner, and then a base that might be a little thinner, and this might be a little thinner, you know? So somebody out there is going to have a situation where their combination of things is going to be a little looser than their friends, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I never thought about it this way, but it totally makes sense.
So statistically, you're gonna, if you have a machine that's minus 0.05, so it's a little open, a little larger, statistically, then you're gonna have one of your cutting plates is gonna be a little thicker, so it's gonna make up for that. And then this is going to be a little thicker, so it's going to make up for that. And then this is going to be a little thinner, so it'll make up for that. So it all kind of works out, and it's close enough to give you really good results all the time. But there's going to be somebody out there who is going to have that situation where their machine's going to feel a little looser, and then they buy new cutting plates maybe in 6 months from now, then it feels a little tighter again. And so there's all kinds of situations like that. So for that, we have this shim. Shims are something that we don't talk about enough.
We don't.
So we don't. And we should. And so shims. So the shims are 0.15 millimeter, and these things are like super, super spot on accurate. Okay. So the shims are the one thing that are like the most accurate. So they're 0.15 millimeter. So this little piece of Mylar. So this is basically our tool for forgiveness. So if you're noticing that, gosh, I'm not getting quite, it's not cutting quite as well, or that impression on that emboss is not quite what I want it to be, I want a little deeper, then that's when you add a shim. And where you add a shim is someplace where it is not next to a cutting surface. So like if you're cutting dies, you've got your A platform here, as you can see that. Is that the right side up? So I've got my A platforms here. And then what I would do is if I'm not getting a deep enough cut or deep enough emboss, I would add the shim right in between A and B. Okay. And then do my cutting on top of that, right?
Okay. So you just hide it between the other plates.
I hide it. And that just keeps it flat, it keeps it unwrinkled, it keeps it clean, and
it lasts longer this way.
And it lasts longer, right? Yeah. So, and then if I'm doing a emboss, if I'm a 3D emboss, you're just gonna put it on the bottom anyway, and then you have your embossing folder here and your plate on top.
I guess the point with the shim is you don't use it all the time, because I know some people like to use their shims every time they cut. Like they get a new die cutting machine and they start using the shim right away. I think it's important to mention that you use your plates without the shims first, and only if you notice you're not getting that gut cut, that's when you break out your shim, and that's when you use your shim. Do not shim every time. I guess that's
a great point.
Yeah.
You're 100% correct. The shim is a fix-it tool. It's not something you use every time unless you need it.
Yes. Can you use two shims?
Yeah, you can use two shims. We sell it with one. We sell shims as an accessory. You can use two shim. Sometimes there are some like really super thin materials out there, too. Like if you're trying to cut something that's like if you're trying to cut something that's an acetate or something that's like super thin like this, if you do have an issue cutting it, you might need two shims. But for the most part, with paper, one shim is generally.
Okay, good to know. Thank you, Denzil. So we talked about tolerances, but what exactly does that mean in our real die cutting world?
So the machine has a tolerance when it's being manufactured, plus or minus. And this base has a tolerance, plus or minus. And each component has a tolerance, plus or minus. So as we stack things together, the more components that we have, we need those components because sometimes we want to do die cutting, sometimes we want to do embossing, sometimes we want to do hot foil, sometimes, there are different techniques that we want to do. So we need all the components, but just recognize that each component has a different tolerance, plus or minus. So the more components you stack together, the more likelihood you might have to actually have something that is too thin or too thick, and you might need to make a compensation with a shim. So that's really.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It's super easy. So, if
Yeah. It's like it's addition and subtraction, right? No multiplication, no division.
yeah, you just
Plus or
add
minus.
or subtract.
Add or subtract.
Sounds
Yep.
good. Okay, so what about steel rule dies? We talked about the chemically etched dies, the thin dies, but we also have the thick dies, the steel rule dies. We don't really make them anymore. We don't really have them anymore, but there are still steel rule dies out there.
There's a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the steel rule dies in compatibility. When we talked about the grand caliber and the some of the small machines, and even when you get into some of the electric machines now that are out there, like the Gemini and stuff like that, if you have a steel rule die, this isn't going to work with those machines. It's only going to work with machines that are the wider open. Okay, so and those really you just take the steel wool die and two cutting plates and then work on the platinum. The larger steel wool dies will work on the platinum. Then we've got all different sizes of ours and Sizzix. I think those are the two main companies that made steel wool dies. There's another company that's in the quilt market called AccuQuilt. That they make quilting dies. I think you've seen some of those and stuff.
I have.
So those you can use in here also. Those I believe are the same thickness as the Spellbinders and the Sizzix dies. But Tim Holtz, for the first several years, Tim Holtz had, that's all he did was steel wool dies. So I know there's thousands and millions of these dies out there. So if you have these, they're still great dies. They're going to last forever. You can still use them on any of the machines. So the compatibility, the only thing you need to know about compatibility with steel wool dies is, will it fit through my machine?
Yeah.
Is it wide enough? So that's really the only thing there. So steel wool dies are pretty simple because there's not that many out there, or there's not as many as there are etched dies.
Yes, I actually still have some of my old Spellbinders and Fun Jumpers Journey steel rule dies. They're like collector items for me,
I love these scoring lines in them and being able to, cut big bags and boxes, different materials, chipboard, all that stuff. It cuts like butter. So I love steel rule dies.
Okay. So we've mentioned the etched dies, the chemically etched dies, the thin dies. We've mentioned the steel rule dies. Why don't we talk about the embossing folders now?
Cool. Sounds good. So embossing folders are really like the one thing that there's no standard to at all. They're all over the board. All kinds of companies are making all different thicknesses. And that's one of the reasons why we had to come out with a multi-purpose platform at Sizzix and all of our accessories here at Spellbinders that have all the different thicknesses, because everybody's embossing folders are kind of wacky. It's all over the place. And so we have a great compatibility list that's on our website. So let's put a link in that down there.
Yes.
But, so you have some embossing folders that are super, super thin, like these. These are 2 millimeters. You have some that's 1.8 millimeters. I've seen those. You got some of the Sizzix Tim Holtz ones that are 5.8 millimeters. So it's just each one's going to require a different combination of plates, platforms, and different things. So we'll link the compatibility list there. You can go take a look at it and they'll give you the right sandwich.
So we have two more things to talk about in this video, and one of them is hot foil. So how is the hot foil compatibility?
Cool. So hot foil.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really, again, that's one of the reasons we went to the wider opening on the machines. The compatibility of hot foil, you have to have a wide machine to be able to do hot foil. So we had to have the machine first, and then a few years later, we came out with the Glimmer hot foil system. So it works with, the Spellbinders, the Platinum 6, not on the little guy right here in front of me, not on the Scout. Also works um, on the Stampin' Up machine. If you have the Stampin' Up machine, also works on the Big Shot. So again, we try to make that cross compatibility as much as possible. So super easy to use. You've got the blade base that you heat up, and then you'll have the spacer pad and the thin shim, depending on what you're flying. But works in all the machines.
And you can also shim with Glimmer, right?
Yes, yes. In fact, you might need to shim. I know that you do. You have some great Glimmer videos.
Yes.
You should probably, let's link to one of those down on the bottom too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I love my Glimmer and I shim a lot. Of course, depending on, it depends what type of paper I use, but if I'm using the thinner cardstock, I typically add a shim.
Right. Right. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Especially the specialty papers. Fantastic.
Yes. Yeah.
And then BetterPress, let's leave the newest for
best for last.
Latest, the best for last. The BetterPress also compatible in our machines, doesn't work in some of the competitors' machines that have the thinner opening. And that's why we went with the wider opening, is because we knew long term there are things, there are techniques, there are new products that we want to do new techniques with. And in the future, we'll even have other new products that will work in the machine, beyond die cutting, embossing, hot foil, letterpress and stuff. So in the future, we have things planned out for years in advance. And BetterPress, again, you're going to need a machine that has a wider opening. P6, Platinum, the Big Shot, and stamp die cut machine from Stampin' Up. So the compatibility is really the key thing. Is having that wider opening and having the proper width that you want it to work with. So
yeah, lots of great stuff. Very useful information, Denzil. Thank you for sharing with us.
now look at my mess.
Well, yeah, love your crafty mess.
Was there any other questions?
I don't think there were any other questions, but if you guys have any other questions, please leave them in the comments below, and we will be sure to cover them in our next episode.
Great. Always good to see you, Yana. Good to see everybody.
Great to see you too, Denzil.
Keep the questions coming so we can get you making beautiful things. And if you know the reason why, if you know behind the scenes, I think that makes your crafting so much better, a more enjoyable experience if you know why the machines do what they do, why paper does what it does. And in the future, we'll talk about dyes and other things too.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks so much for joining us, Denzil. Thank you all, everyone, for spending time with us today. And we will be again soon with our next episode. Bye.
Bye.